This is DIY Cyber Guy with David W. Schrofer. Every week, he will show you how cybersecurity can be as easy as locking up your house at night. Now, here is your host, David W. Schrofer.
Welcome back, everybody, to DIY Cyber Guy. This is episode 98. Will AI replace humans? Answers from an expert. This is a hair and fire 2 out of 5, maybe higher, depending on whether or not you're personally worried about your job being downsized or replaced in any way by AI or technology in general. This podcast, this episode is for literally every human, not just humans that work in the technology world, not just humans that use AI, but literally every human. So if you're listening to it, this one is for you. So the synopsis is simply this. AI is not going to eliminate most human skills, but it will reconfigure how those skills are applied and where that value is created. McKinsey did an analysis that shows over 70% of current workforce skills remain relevant, even in the presence of AI, including non-automatable tasks, and in some cases, some automatable tasks, and also a small portion of purely human contributions that we all make every day. So in this article, which is entitled Human Skills Will Matter More Than Ever in the Age of AI by McKinsey's Global Institute, and the link for that is in the show notes of episode 98, the authors argue that as AI takes over routine execution, heavy workload, like data processing, basic analytics, the human roles are going to shift up the value chain toward a few different things: problem framing, decision-making, interpretation and judgment, and then, of course, the old classics, leadership, communication, and collaboration, things that can really only be done amongst us humans. So this means that the value that's created by individuals is going to apply to human judgment and creativity on top of those AI-driven insights. As the report notes, and I'm quoting now, work activities that require expertise, interaction with stakeholders, and managing people will actually become more important in the age of AI. So here with me to talk about all this today is Jonathan Aberman, founder of Hupside, which literally stands for Human Upside. He is the former founding dean of Marymount University's College of Business Innovation, Leadership, and Technology, and he is a partner from the venture capital firm Ruxin Ventures. Welcome, Jonathan.
Well, David, thanks a lot for having me, and thanks to all of you for listening in. I'm going to do my best to help unpack a very thorny issue today.
Excellent. Well, let's see what we can do to manage the thorns.
Absolutely.
So thorny question number one, is AI going to replace humans?
Yes and no.
Okay.
And I think that's a really important nuance. And frankly, a lot of the conversation right now around AI is very much framed by almost pushing that question to one side or elevating it to a larger extent, depending on which side of the AI-human divide you're on. And so the more nuanced answer is that AI, machine learning, Gen AI, is really, really good at ingesting and duplicating processes. That's really what it does. And it's been doing it for a while, and it does it better and better. And what these Gen AI models do is they are able to mimic human behavior and mimic a lot more higher level tasks than machine learning traditionally could. So if you just start with that, and then you layer on top of that agents, which are going to use the Gen AI to accomplish tasks, you can see that more and more routinized activities that require higher level of fact analysis and reasoning are doable by AI. So people logically are asking the question, well, geez, what's the logical outcome? And the logical outcome, and we'll talk about it, is that AI has certain inherent architectural limitations in it. The biggest one being it generates sameness at scale. Its efficiency is its weakness, in other words. In a world where humans are going to be the primary consumer, when humans value novelty, because that's how we're wired up, there's going to be a need for differentiation. And the need for differentiation, you described leadership. Leadership is, hey, let's do this, or creativity, creating something new. Basically, creating differentiation in one way or another is going to be the preserve of either really well-functioning AI that doesn't exist today, or humans, or a combination of both. So the answer is AI won't replace humans, but AI is going to force a different way for humans to add value than existed before AI existed. And that is probably the most honest answer.
Okay. A lot to unpack there. I'd like to start with your what you just said about AI's efficiency is its weakness. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, it's not talked about as much as I think it should be, although the symptoms are starting to become very clear. The problem with the way that the large language models, the Gen AIs, are constructed, in order for them to operate well and be useful, they have to have at some level predictability and output. There needs to be some sort of similarity. If you and I ask the same question, we should get roughly the same answer. You combine that with the architectural limitation that it can only report on information that exists at a time, which makes it prospective, not a retrospective, not prospective. And what you have is this perfect storm of knowledge gathering and knowledge application that's going to be bound by a homogenization. It's just an architectural outcome. It's a feature, not a bug, and it exists in every one of the large language models that exist today. It's an architectural problem. So what you see is that now that it's operating, you see the growing phenomenon, for example, of work slump. Where people talk about AI work slump. I just got a piece of content and there's nothing in it that's useful. I can tell it was written by AI.
Right,
That's offensive to people because, A, we'd like to consume things we feel are special to us. But it's
right,
also offensive because on some level, you know that you're not getting anything that everybody else can't get.
right,
So you're hearing phenomena of work slump. You're hearing issues of people becoming over reliant on AI and suffering from cognitive decline. The similarity, the sameness of it, it takes away the specialness that frankly people like to consume. So that's what I'm
sure,
really getting at. But it's the sameness that allows it to operate at scale. It's the sameness that makes an agent so attractive. I mean, if you can have an agent do the same task again and again and again and again, that's sameness. But you don't care. You want the sameness. So that's
right.
why I say, will AI replace people? Yes and no. Where sameness is a value, where sameness is a problem, but where the humans add value is, frankly, that's the fault line for our society. That's where people are going to make their money. And frankly, that's where AI needs people. It's at that line.
Okay. I like trying to draw historical analogies to help people understand like the size of the thing we're talking about here. So let's take the advent of the internet. A very short quarter century ago, all of a sudden there was this new connectivity that was happening, and it started out as brochureware, where your website, your company could have effectively a brochure online, and then a phone number, and then a contact us form, and of course, then it's evolved into the internet full of
Mm-hmm.
commerce and other things that it is today. But that shifted things, right? That shifted how commerce thinks and works. It shifted how people communicate today. It shifted how meetings, very much like this one, occur. Once upon a time, you or I would have traveled to a table somewhere with
Yeah.
two microphones on it, and now we're simply doing this, of course, on a Zoom call from the comfort of our respective offices.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you compare the impact of what's happening with AI and the adjustments probably the wrong word, but the changes that it's making to the efficacy of a professional versus a quarter century ago when all of a sudden your computer was connected to every other computer on earth?
So somewhat similar, but very different. And if we're talking about historical precedent, the issue fundamentally is, economies have certain ground rules for how value is created, and there have only been in human history a couple of moments where there was a dramatic change in how society functioned as a result of technology. So
Hmm.
going back to the mist of time, back 10,000 years or so ago, agriculture, the ability to grow food if people lived in the same place created urbanization. I mean, the first cities of the
Hmm.
world existed because people figured out how to plant and, grow food. The
Right.
wheel changed society. The printing press changed society. In more recent memory, the mechanization going from horsepower to steam power,
Hmm.
machinery, um, were significant tectonic changes that changed the relationship between human labor and human output. And with every step of the way, humans have been able to reconfigure themselves so that they can always be part of the value chain and capture the benefit of the technology, right? And that's why you see these massive changes in wealth and massive changes in economy with these quote industrial waves. The last big industrial wave we had after steam power and mechanization really was semiconductor and computers, because that created the tectonic change in how we went from brute force labor to white collar to brute force labor to white collar to knowledge worker.
Right.
The internet was really an enablement of connecting computers in new ways to make it easier for us to operate computers at scale, the cloud, and all the rest of it. The interesting important thing to note about artificial intelligence is this is dramatically changing the value relationship between human labor and output in a way that we haven't seen since we went from farms to factories.
Hmm.
Insofar as that, how we're all going to make money, how we're going to make our way, how we're going to consume what we consume is now being shaped by this sameness engine that creates incredible efficiency. So you either adopt a new way to make money where you're going to provide differentiation, or frankly, you're going to have to answer the hard question about why do I need you if I can have a piece of software do what you do
Right.
24/7 for a lot less money. And so any of us alive today have never experienced anything like this, and that's what I think makes it so incredibly hard, because we're all at sea. We
Hmm.
it's like that old joke about moving the cheese. Our cheese is being moved. We know it's being moved. It's scary as hell, but it seems almost inexorable. And in
Right.
some ways it kind of is. But that's the nature of it. It is different in that regard. You know, just the thought of experiment, we tend to think about analogized internet because the AI software, we think about social media, so we analogize to software and it makes it more familiar. But imagine if instead the technological innovation had been to suddenly allow certain people to live for 1,000 years.
Okay.
Think how that would change society.
Sure.
And
It'd be quite a few more of us.
well, or it would be unbelievable inequality, or a lot of things could happen. It'd be very
Yeah.
interesting. But my point is that that would change the nature of work, leisure, a lot of things, but we don't. So my point is to say AI is explosively different because of its effect on us, not because it's software. So it's not analogous to the internet. It just so happens that the change it's bringing is software. Does that frame it? And that's I think why so many of us are sitting there thinking, "Holy crap! How do I adjust this? This isn't just a new technology. This is a whole new world." And
Hmm.
then some people are saying, "Nah, it's just a glorified spell checker," or "Nah, it's just software. Nah, it's the internet. It's a bubble. It'll end." Mm-mm. No, this is
Yep.
a tectonic change, whether you like it or not. That's what I think makes it different and makes it harder to deal with.
Right. So you and I were speaking before we started recording, and we both have, children who are adults and out there in the world trying to make their way.
Hmm.
What what advice do you have you or would you give your kids about how to think about entering professional services, which like we all do, we all enter from the bottom. Nobody starts out as the president of a large company, unless your parents were the presidents of that large company.
Even
But
then you don't. Yeah.
exactly, and then you don't have the skills because you didn't earn them by the battle royale that is a career. But so what how would you advise somebody entering the workforce, or maybe somebody that isn't at that managerial or C level echelon, to recalibrate or rethink about the trajectory of their career?
So I need to go back down a little bit of a boat hole, just so you know my frame of reference. The company that I'm involved in, Hubside, what we do is we measure whether or not a human or a piece of content evidences some level of originality above the baseline of what you get to AI. It's a demonstrable signal so that somebody can stick their chest out and say, I can create something that you can't get from Claude, or I just created something you can get from Claude. So, so my frame of reference is very much shaped by the experience and seeing how people can drive themselves to use their ability to think to create or manage to do something that's atypical. And atypical can mean just a simple tweak in how you do your job, or it can be simply just being pleasant to somebody in a meeting, or it can be a brand new invention. There are a lot of different ways that we show people the respect of being original or having them be original with us. Okay. I think that originality, as we can identify it, is the currency of society. If you think about it, whatever we do in life, we're trying to be safe, or we're trying to be experiencing something that makes us feel special, or do something special, or get something special. That's the desire for novelty.
Hmm.
Originality is the output, that thing, the currency. So I'm involved at a university right now as an executive in residence. I'm in the classroom. I love staying in the classroom, and I was a dean. And what I'm telling all my students is, I don't care how you get there, but you need to accomplish a few things. A, you need to understand that you need to use AI as a way to accelerate your ability to differentiate. In other words, if you get in a closed doom loop where you just basically ask AI what to think, it will tell you. It'll tell you
Yeah.
really well and act like it's your best friend. That's what it's designed to do. Be your friend.
Be
So
your
you have to
friend.
be
Yep.
really, really critical. You have to push it and push it and push it, and engage in a dialogue and tell them that's wrong. You can't. So number one is start to use it as a tool. Two, use it a lot. Don't run from it, because your competitors, the people in your generation that use it well, are going to outperform you.
Yeah.
They'll be more original than you because they will take their natural ability and enhance it. So that's two. Three, try to find a career where you can differentiate yourself on some specialness. And what I say is, if you want to be a knowledge worker, understand you're going to have to be at the edge. You're going to have to push yourself. Being a knowledge worker is not going to be a place where you're going to be able to phone it in. If you want to phone
Hmm.
it in, figure out how to live without a lot of money and live on a farm, or do something that's not going to require you to be very special, but don't think you're going to be able to have a white collar life without an
Right.
edge. Or if you don't want to play that game, I believe that the world that we're going to come into is going to value individual excellence a lot more. What I mean by that is, be a really good plumber, be a really good waiter, be a really good home care person, be a really good teacher.
Nurse.
I
Yeah.
don't care.
Doctor. Yeah.
Right, right. But be good at something that you can't get through repetitive task. And the good news is it's an easy message to deliver. The bad news is we're all, as parents and mentors, fighting against a massive problem, which is frankly social media addiction, and that a lot of our students have been trained to look at information and the internet as a passive activity or a multiplayer game. And we're serving up this technology, which I said before could have been life change, like life extension. It's a tectonic change, but they're consuming it like it's a social media tool, And
Right.
actually, last thing I'll say about that is, if you look at the usage, Claude, in particular Anthropic, is here's how people are using it. The number two uses are chat, search, because people. So I really think that as parents, break them of social media addiction, point out that 40% of them are addicted in high school, break them
Hmm.
of that addiction, teach them to make eye contact, don't let them bring the phone to dinner, get out of the freaking house. Everybody
Yeah.
detoxes for an afternoon. And then when you get to college, send them a college that doesn't treat AI like a cheating problem. Have them go to college, a place that treats AI as a part of training the student, where they're going to train the
Right.
student how to think with AI. And just that's the best advice I can give. Detox, and then encourage, because the ones that get this joke will be very employable in a post AI world. And the ones that don't, I fear for. Honestly, I do.
That's an excellent segmentation. The ones that don't get the joke, and the joke is exactly what you just said. Simply, if you believe everything it tells you, and you believe that's whatever result AI gives you, then you're playing into the same joke of social media, that the rosy presentation that somebody is making of their life or of their accomplishments in text and photos is hardly a representation of who that person really is. Not a scratch on a surface of who that person is. So that's the joke, that it's all just a facade. And I love your point of, you really got to look behind that curtain. You have to challenge AI to give you the explore the answer you're looking for, but make your own decision based on the information it's able to mine, or leverage the fact that it can do some menial tasks and repetitive tasks for you, with you at the command center, not AI in the command center. If you turn over the executive function, the executive decision to AI, you will be worthless in the workplace. And that's the people we fear for.
Listen, it's a fundamental truth of humanity is that we compete for scarce resources. That's what
Yes.
humans do. And we can soften it, we can manage it, we can civilize our way out of it. But at the end of the day, we look at society as an organizing principle. The people who have scarcity and can keep and provide scarcity, the ones that benefit in a society, they either create scarcity through authoritarianism and through grabbing resources, or you create scarcity through a competition where people
Right.
are free to compete. And those two levers explain basically the entirety of human history. Everybody now is in a world where, like it or not, scarcity value is going to be in the hands of people who can create something that AI can't. And what it's going to do, it's going to raise the bar. And it's going to be really punishing people who are worried about larger unemployment. You know what? You should be worried about that, because
Yeah.
it's a real thing. What society does about that is going to be a big issue for the next 5, 10 years. But if I'm talking and you're talking about giving a young person or an older person advice about how to compete, understand that this society will value scarcity more, not less, because AI is going to commoditize things. So, look, we can understand, we see it. People are going to go here to concerts and pay a lot of money to hear artists who perform original music, even if AI drowns us in AI music on Spotify, right?
Mhm.
We're going to value great athletes, but on a lower level, who are you going to go to for service? Your local business where you're talking with a human or an agent? Which company are you going to do business with? The company
Right.
who you can't get anybody on the phone with, or company where there's somebody on the phone who's well trained? I could go on.
Yep.
Scarcity is going to be available to all of us if we apply ourselves, and if we do, we'll make money and we'll gather resources and we'll be valuable. Um, but that's going to be the big adjustment. It's going to require a higher level of engagement and a higher level of personal accountability that frankly, a lot of our young people and older people haven't had to deal with. And if you add on top of that the compounding factor of we live in an environment where there are forces in our world where there's money to be made by allowing people to be passive and reward them for being passive, it's a perfect storm. You know, um, so you got to keep your head on a swivel every day, is what I would say. Every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's end it there, Jonathan. I think you did a great job of
Thanks.
navigating the thorny issue that we talked about at the top of the interview. But I'd like to leave it here. Where can people find out more about what you do?
Well, definitely go and check out Hupside, humanupside.com. And we have a couple of ways that you can learn about your own original intelligence. There's an OIQ challenge you can play, and you can find out how you perform against AI, or you can try out the Hup Checker and do it with a bunch of your friends. It makes a great drinking game, by the way. I actually find getting people together and trying to find the most bizarre answers to a question is actually quite entertaining. You can follow me on LinkedIn. I tend to post there, and I promise everything I post, I actually write. So you'll get no AI work slap out of me. And
Excellent.
look, this is a mission. It's a movement, and I just want all your followers, listeners to know, because I know a lot of you are out there trying to make things happen day to day. That's the nature of the show. People understand that this is a real problem. And not everybody is willing to accept that AI is deterministically going to make us all irrelevant. I object to that. My partners in this object, or investors object. There are a lot of people that don't want AI to be the deterministic thing that shapes our world. So don't lose heart, is what I would say. Don't lose heart.
Perfect. Perfect. And if anybody missed any of the links that Jonathan just talked about, just go to DIYcyberguy.com, look for episode 9898, and you will find all the links, and including the link to Jonathan's company. So, Jonathan, thanks so much for being on the show today. It's really been great having you.
Love meeting you. Thanks for letting me do it, Dave. Appreciate it.
That's all the time we have today. Remember, for the show notes from this episode, or to listen to any of our past episodes, or to get a free chapter from my book, Digital Habits, just go to DIYcyberguy.com. And if you want to buy my book, just go to Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com and search the keywords Digital Habits 5 Simple Tips. If you have questions or an idea for the show, just email me at questions@DIYcyberguy.com. And if this show helps you stay safe online, please click the share button and send it to everyone you think we can help. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to DIY Cyber Guy. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this broadcast are for general information only, and we have not knowingly divulged any information that would conflict with any of our non-disclosure or confidentiality agreements. Enjoy the internet safely.